So yeah, first off, I appreciate the time coming out. I'll have you start with why do you want to run for this seat?
For the same reasons I had to run in 2022, in large part, this campaign is very much a reprise of issues and points then, with different emphasis. So, at the time, it was the issue of election deniers. It was the issues of government meddling into personal private affairs, whether one's decisions to have a child or have an abortion or who you marry, medical decisions that parents have to make for their children. And that's all still here. I mean, it hasn't gone away. So those are the issues that provoke me as a citizen. What I'm doing as a candidate, as a Democrat, is working under the theory that Democrats have to run everywhere in every election if we're ever going to break the supermajority in the Missouri legislature. Because the problems, the issues that we're just referring to, have been caused by their government. They're governing for the last 20 years now, right? The things about which we're unhappy have been mostly given to us by the Republicans, who now thinking they vanquished Democrats entirely, are now turning on each other and accusing each other of being communists and cop killers and this kind of stuff. If you watch the commercials and what they do to each other. So I'm running in 2024 because what should have been fixed in 2022 didn't get fixed.
Kind of going off of that, I know like this district, it went red last time, obviously, but do you feel like you have a little bit more of an advantage this time around now that you do have two Republicans also running against each other that might split that vote, or do you feel like it's the same uphill battle as the last time you were running?
Well, I'm pretty sure the Republicans are going to rally behind whichever Beal or Martin wins. I am personally amused that they have a real primary and watch the mayors of Hallsville, Ashland, and Hartsburg endorse Beal over Martin. That's all entertaining to me. They like to take swipes at each other. That's entertaining. By confession, I sense a bit more personal animosity and motivation to get rid of Cherie Tolshen-Reich in 2022, motivating people that I don't sense now. Now, other things have been going on. I haven't been campaigning out knocking doors like it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago I was not doing doors in late April, okay? Other things have been going on in my life. I just now got started knocking doors. So don't really have a sense of that from there, all right? But it's just a general media sense. I would have thought that because the abortion rights amendment is on the ballot, it should be on the ballot in November, and because of the other ballot issue to raise minimum wage, things, that there would be enough people coming out to drag the 44th across the finish line. Right? A lot of money and energy coming into the county for Stephen Weber's campaign. If there's any kind of coordinated campaign at all, I should do better. Okay. Now, there's still no real expectation that I'm going to win, but the HDCC wants people to get numbers up. I could get above 40%, then maybe the next guy who comes along, because I'm pretty sure this is the last time. I don't think I'm gonna do this again. The next person who comes along, they might get a little bit more help from, for lack of a better word, the Democratic establishment, for lack of a better word. Those are the people who turn on the money.
What would you say the biggest issue is currently facing the 44th district that you would think would be, if you did happen to get elected, like the biggest thing you would like to see addressed first?
The threats to school funding. One of my opponents, both of my opponents, as I understand it, want to get rid of property taxes, and one of them, John Martin, was explicit in saying he wants to get rid of property taxes and fund the schools entirely with sales taxes, which means everybody's sales taxes are going to go up if he has it his way. And people point out to me, what sense does it make for a guy to say in the 44th. Two of the three largest employers, something like that, in the 44th of the school districts. Are they going to vote for a guy who's talking about essentially cutting their funding? This whole property freeze scheme is a long-range plan to squeeze funding to the public schools and to the libraries. So there is that concrete aggressive assault on the local schools in the county, and then I guess it's just the failure to deliver what people outside the city limits of Columbia need. And broadband still does suck, and some of the roads really do need fixing. It's things like that. That you hear. When it's practical, it's just those practical issues that people want to talk about, and all the distraction is, the meddling in trans healthcare issues, or the people who are simply dogmatic and will not accept we've got to start regulating firearms some way better than we are if we're ever going to stop. This is. No other country, no other civilized Western country, Europe doesn't have this problem. Only America has this problem with guns. And just by coincidence today, I was looking at incarceration rates and how many people in America wind up in jail as compared to the United Kingdom or Spain or France. It's like, 3, 4, 5 times as many. We're a violent people, and we lock a lot of us up, and I can't figure out why we can't do something about that.
Going into kind of attacking some of these points individually, I'll start with education, since that was the first thing you brought up. I know charter schools have been a hot topic of discussion. I know one of your opponents also said they would kind of like to put more choice in the hands of the parents as far as what their children are learning in schools. How do you feel the state of Missouri education is, and what would you like to see? Is there anything you would like to see done differently, or how would you like to see education?
Okay, so my kids went to the Columbia Public Schools, and I can't say they were perfect, but we were pretty happy with how their educations went. They went to the Lee, what was then the Lee Expressive Arts. It's now the Locust Expressive Arts School, which, like Ridgeway in the Columbia District, has a lot of autonomy in how they organize their programs. And I am all in favor of letting school districts do that. I'm familiar with a program called the Waldorf School. It's similar to the outdoor nature schools that Columbia wants to start. Great. What I can't support is a program where people outside the school district run their schools and have no accountability for financing. They have no accountability to prove that people are learning. And we have a lot of historical evidence out of the urban areas that, a lot of those charter schools took a lot of money, and then nobody learned anything, and the charter schools shut down. So can't have that. So we want the people who say they want school choice, but they got to have charter schools to do it. That's canard. That's not no logical necessity. But it's ironic that John Potter, who's running in the 47th, is a fan of the Ridgeway School. And he and I have had a conversation about, hey, wouldn't it be great if every school could organize itself to suit the community that it's serving? Have more lottery schools. Don't need charter schools to do any of that.
Going off the gun point too, you also brought up set some big priorities. Missouri does have some of the loosest gun laws in the country. I did see though on your campaign website you are a gun owner. So I guess what do you think the balance is between protecting Second Amendment rights and some sort of gun legislation to maybe help some of the crime numbers go down, or where do you think that balance should lie?
The general principle is, unless we can track, and right there, that's going to lose some people because tracking is a conspiracy theory to disarm the populace. Okay, unless you can track the firearm from the legal manufacturer to the legal possessor, chain of custody, there's never going to be a way to stop firearms from getting into the hands of people who either have ill intentions or have no responsibility for using them. People can accept this as a fact or not, all right? Then, okay, so if that's the fact, then it's just now a matter of how inconvenient are we going to be? Well, universal background checks. Maybe you shouldn't be able to buy certain raise the weapons until you're 21, because it's hard to check someone's background if they haven't got one yet at 18, right? Little piecemeal things like this. More aggressive ideas would be to say, sure, you're great. You want to carry a concealed weapon anywhere you want to go. You want to stand your ground and shoot somebody, fine. You need to have some bonds, some insurance, you know? It's not like you as a Second Amendment gun owner have a right to have a gun. You have a right to have a gun if you can go buy one. Ain't no one going to give you one, right? It's not like you have a right. Where's my gun, right? And so, well, okay, I got a right to shoot people I think are threatening me, but man, if I make a mistake, do I have an obligation to pay their hospital bills, right? Which is a real question to the victims in Kansas City. Responsible adults don't want to talk about this. They go get grenade launchers and blow up boxes of evidence. That's what the responsible adults in the Republican Party do. That's how they act. Give me a flamethrower.
Well, I know one of the talking points for Republicans or counter arguments here is guns don't kill people.
Yeah.
People do. Do you feel like with some tighter gun restrictions, maybe some of these crime numbers would go down? Do you think there's a correlation between some of the crime?
The historical evidence is that the more rules, the fewer gun deaths, and if Republicans want to double down on the position and say, well, you know, dead people is just the cost of freedom. We're all for punishing people after the fact. Okay, if that's what the public says they want, I don't think that's what the public wants. I think that's what some gun dealers want. And there's certainly a lot of political groups who want to scare people into buying guns all the time. Yeah. Someday, if you want to ask me why do I have firearms, I will tell you it's as much a matter of accident as just, you know, historical tradition. You know, guns just float around.
I guess, what do you mean by matter of accident, like as far as the gun?
Yeah, so like my kid bought the assault weapon that he couldn't take to California because it was illegal there. So I went up, it's my house now. Okay, I don't want that out in public. You know, I inherited a little pistol from my father when he passed away. That's an heirloom. Bought a shotgun a long time ago because people 2 blocks away had their front door kicked in and a drug thing, and then, you know, and it's like, well, okay, maybe I need to make a little noise. And then even I got to the point when I was traveling a whole lot and things were weird, I wanted to have a little 38 in my glove compartment in the car just in case. I was doing a lot of driving when my father was passing away. So that's guns in America, right? I keep mine locked up. You know, they go to the range. You know, and I'm from the time in America when guns were out in public when you were going to the range or going hunting, right? There may have been one on top of the abattoir, you know, or the cupboard, you know, somewhere in the house, but it was there. Everybody knew it. You left it alone, right? It was not braggadocio. It was not. You know, this is. Yeah.
Two-pronged question. How big of an issue do you feel crime is in Boone County? And what would your plans be to either like address or fund some of these public safety concerns that you see a lot popping up? Or do you feel like the crime issue is a little overblown?
You know, I only know what I see in the paper, and there's always these terrible particular stories you read, and then you read the general data where things are, and you have to ask yourself, what's more real? So I don't have any specifics about that. What I try to take away from reading about the criticism of policing that came out of the George Floyd Black Lives Matter movement was, it isn't that we want smaller police forces, okay? We want different kind of police forces that have to have different kinds of people with different kinds of training to address the different kinds of problems out on the street. And that does mean spending more money, okay? It does mean if the homeless population is a source of a significant portion of the crime, what are you going to do except get them into a place where their problems can be addressed, or arrest them and put them in the jails? I don't think the sheriff Kerry really wants that, right? So it does always come down to the willingness to spend money. There is the big dispute about, homeless. Do you put them into a facility first, housing first, and then deal with the problems, or do you dangle the housing over getting treatment of some kind? I don't know how you regulate the treatment if you don't have people where they can be observed. So I'm generally in favor of, spending the money and listening to the people who actually study the issue, not the critics who, make a living, making noise on their Facebook pages about everything that's wrong with Columbia. I mean, so there's that. I've been told there are, that there is a gang problem. There may be as many 50 people affiliated in different groups. I've had people say out loud, yeah, the guns they get are illegal guns that, come from elsewhere in the county, elsewhere in the state. Okay. Let the police do their job, give them the facilities they need to do their job. When people talk about local policing and having beat cops and this kind of stuff, shouldn't you know the police in your neighborhood, or should you always be dealing with strangers? I always have to ask that question. I can't say I know their names, but I think I recognize the same faces as they're driving through my part of Boone County. I'm not an expert. I just know it's true that a lot of the problems we have are caused by the fact we don't want to spend the money to fix them.